Wonderful. Good morning. Welcome to our September subcommittee meeting. Thank you all for joining us. Be a good meeting and some exciting milestones to celebrate. I believe we have the Vice Mayor on the phone. Would welcome a motion on the minutes.
Motion to move the minutes forward.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Wonderful. Passes unanimously. Thank you. The meeting packet includes our City of Phoenix Homeless Initiative update. A lot of good information on that, and there'll be several presentations coming forward, including one to our full City Council coming up. Been a busy summer. We have a consent agenda today. No presentations are planned, but staff is available to answer questions. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second from the Vice Mayor. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Well, the consent agenda passes unanimously. And now we move on to item 9, Reinvent Phoenix, and welcome our Planning and Development Director. And it was an exciting weekend for Reinvent Phoenix, so hopefully Alan will share some good news about the project.
It was. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Reinvent Phoenix project, as most people know, is a $2.9 million grant from HUD to do transit district planning along the light rail line. This project, the official planning process of it wrapped up with council approval in June and July of this year, but we're in the implementation phase. And I'm happy to announce that Saturday evening, the city received an award from Arizona Forward for their Environmental Excellence Merit Award for the Reinvent Phoenix project.
Congratulations, well deserved.
Oh, thank you. I'd also like to note that the Arizona Planning Association, we also are a winner in that, their master plan category as well, and that will be publicly announced later on this fall. So that's another great statewide award recognition for a fantastic project. I'd like to thank staff and our project partners like St. Luke's Health Initiative, ArtLink, and ASU for all their help on this project. The presentation that we're here to talk about today is really an overview of the Reinvent project, our implementation, as well as our pre-development grant process that we went through that just wrapped up here. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig Mavis, who's going to talk about the pre-development side of things, and then Sandy Hoffman is going to walk through some of our implementation outreach efforts in the East Lake area. And then Ms. Catherine Coles on the end is going to walk us through an example of how we're implementing the transit district plans for a recent zoning case that went to the Central City Village Planning Committee.
Good morning, Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, fellow staff members. For the record, my name is Craig Mavis with the Planning and Development Department. I'm here to give a brief presentation on the overview of the Reinvent Phoenix pre-development assistance awardees. As Alan alluded, this is a $2.9 million grant that was provided to us by HUD for support to our Reinvent Phoenix initiative. The $500,000 of this grant went to pre-development awardees for their competitive matching pre-development grants. These selected projects demonstrated the best practices in design, building, use, and financing. So I'll briefly go through the 5 that were awarded money. The first one is Virginia at 3rd. This is a proposed 74-unit affordable housing project with supportive services and wellness centers located at 333 East Virginia Avenue. The distance from the nearest light rail station is approximately 1,600 feet northeast of the Central Avenue and Canto Light Rail Station. That was awarded $172,112.22 for expenses including architectural, legal, engineering, environmental, and financial. This project is approximately 50% of the way towards completion. The second is the Van Buren Motel Adaptive Reuse Project. It is a rehabilitation and conversion of an old Travel Inn motel into a 90-unit affordable housing project with supportive services. It's located at 3541 East Van Buren Street. The distance from the nearest light rail station is approximately 1,500 feet northwest of the Washington and 38th Street light rail station. It was awarded $75,189.61 for expenses including architectural, legal, engineering, environmental, and financial. This project is currently in the process of rehabilitating the existing buildings and will commence in the fall of this year. The third is Union at Roosevelt. It is a proposed 80-unit mixed-use housing project with tenant-ready commercial space located at the southwest corner of 1st Avenue and Roosevelt. Distance is approximately 300 feet from Central Avenue and Roosevelt Light Rail Station. It was awarded $136,967.22 for expenses including architectural, legal, engineering, environmental, and financial. The anticipated completion date is the fourth quarter of next year. The next is the Central Station project located at the northeast corner of First Avenue and Van Buren, which is immediately adjacent to the Van Buren First Avenue light rail station. It's a 400-unit mixed-use housing project with integration into a transit station, commercial space, and co-working business incubator space. They were reimbursed $105,730.95 for expenses including architectural and legal. Currently, this project is under review for potential completion date of next year. Having the review done, it's approximately 10% of the way done. Finally, the shipping container live workspace located at the southwest corner of 5th and Roosevelt Streets. This is a 3-unit live work artist project made out of converted shipping containers. It is approximately 1,630 feet east of the Central Avenue light rail station. They were reimbursed $10,000 for architectural and engineering expenses. It is towards completion, approximately a small portion as it's working its way through obtaining the necessary building permits to commence construction. With that stated, this program has resulted in more than $2 million in private investment based off the submitted expenses to staff, and will be a future catalyst for development within our pedestrian-friendly urban environment. If there's any questions about any of those, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Madam Chair, subcommittee members, we are now at a very exciting time with the Walkable Urban Code. We've had some meetings to outreach to the property owners within the area that we anticipate rezoning to the Walkable Urban Code. And we've also outreached specifically to the East Lake Neighborhood Association to make sure that they're well aware of what we plan to do and to explain the details of the Walkable Urban Code. So we've had 2 meetings so far, one for East Lake property owners, one for the Garfield property owners, and to just start explaining to them and giving some basic understanding of the Walkable Code. We have additional meetings that are anticipated going on through September and October so that we can again explain further the details of how the Walkable Urban Code could actually help and improve the properties along the light rail system. So we will be moving forward with that and helping the community understand again what it entails and how it could actually be a benefit to them. Now this you can't read, but I believe you've got some hard copies of this. So basically what it shows is the overall schedule that we anticipate to follow to move forward with the 5 transit district plans to adopt the Walkable Urban Code. So we anticipate the first area, East Lake Garfield, to move forward in April, and then Gateway will follow after that, and then soon after that we'll move our way up from the downtown area, so Midtown, Uptown will follow, and then Solano. So all of those will be done during the 2016 year to go to the City Council for approval and adoption of the Walkable Urban Code. One other question that had been brought up was how does the transit district policy plans as well as the Walkable Urban Code integrate and work with the canal systems that are within those areas? And we assure you that within the transit district policy plans, we've got elements in there that support and encourage that integration of the canal system as you're doing development along the canal system. In addition to that, we have in the Walkable Urban Code references in the code that actually direct you to our design standards that we have for along the canal frontage, so that we're actually giving construction along the canals a break in that we'll measure the height of the building from the grade of the canal as opposed to the lower area, which allows, again, the more of a smooth transition between the built environment and where the canal will be existing next to that. So we want to, again, encourage that, and that's another effort that's also going on with street transportation. So this will support that as it moves forward, and again, as we start to see development being constructed along the canal, especially those that are involved with the Walkable Urban Code. And with that, I will turn it over to Catherine Coles.
Good morning, Chairwoman, council members, and fellow staff. I'm Catherine Coles, and I wanted to give you a quick update about how we're addressing incentives for additional height based on our policy plans. We had a zoning case come before the Village Planning Committee last night. The site is noted up there on the map. It's at the southwest corner of 12th Street in Washington. The developer is planning to build an 8-story condominium development there. And the minor urban place type that is in the TOD framework talks about this station area being a minor urban center with a range of building heights of 2 to 5 stories, but with the possibility of going to 7 stories if incentives are met. This map here is excerpted from the TOD policy plan, where it's a conceptual zoning map where it identified incentive heights that could be attained possibly between the light rail tracks. So the policies listed here have to do with where do you put heights, and generally we want them right at the light rail stations. We want them to be compatible. We don't want them adjacent to single-family residential. But of note today is how do you achieve the incentive height? And the base requirement for that in the policy is to commit to the Green Building Code, which the applicant in this case has committed to do, and then to provide a fee to help with affordable housing, parks, public parking, or other infrastructure. And in this case, the applicant has agreed to provide a fee for affordable housing. This is a rendering of what they're anticipating the 8-story structure to look like. And this would be at the street level, so plenty of shade and very active. So for future, what we did to get this done is we met with the housing department to determine whether funds could be received and earmarked for affordable housing. The applicant has agreed to provide $150,000 to the city through the housing department for matching money for the Federal Choice Neighborhoods application, which is upcoming, and it would be targeted for redevelopment of affordable housing that is within the East Lake Garfield TOD district. So this is our first time out of the door with addressing this policy, and we will work to refine it in the future with the housing department so we can have an actual mechanism in place on how to determine and utilize the funds for future incentive requests.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for having a robust outreach process with the communities as directed by this subcommittee. Appreciate folks working over the summer, and in particular, gentrification came up throughout the Reinvent Phoenix process. So I'm glad we've looked hard to find mechanisms to make sure that we have affordable housing. We have a very diverse downtown, and we want it to be accessible to people across income spectrums. And so I think we have good mechanisms here to be able to encourage development, but make sure that people across income levels have a good chance to live along the light rail corridor. So, questions?
I just basically wanted with Catherine too. I like the direction, at least what you're doing is you're encouraging good development is what you're doing rather than penalizing it. You're finding ways for people to be able to take advantage of incentives. And when you use the word incentives, the people that might be listening think it's money. But in fact, what it does is it allows them to get either a little more height, a little more density, a little more FAR in their project. The debate that's going to be, it's more of a statement though too. If and people know I'm not a huge light rail supporter, but the voters have voted on it. You've got to make it successful now. And that means you've got to find every mechanism to make it work. And that means people like myself have got to make sure we encourage things that make it successful, otherwise you're wasting taxpayers' monies. The real debate's going to always be on density. Now we're in Phoenix. It's a beautiful day outside today, and it's like 98, which we think is nice. Others might think is warm. People will still have a difficult time in this weather walking more than a few blocks. So as you get these light rail stops, you've got to find a way to make things work, to increase the density, where you get more bodies there. Bodies are what you need on your transportation system. They're not going to walk a long distance. They're just not going to do that. And there's going to be a debate up here. There's a debate at your level. There's even a debate in our community right now of how much do you put in. But, you've got multiple and conflicting, sometimes conflicting things that are going on. And you've got individuals that want to see the system survive and be successful, Then you've got people that live in that actual neighborhood. They're like, well, wait a second, that might be a couple stories too high for us. I don't know how you end up finding that balance, but at the end of the day, too, you've got to figure out we have now a multi-billion-dollar investment occurring, and we've got to do everything we can to make sure that that investment is now successful, for not just for us, but for the future of the city and for the future of the taxpayers, for the ones that are going to be taxpayers in the future. So I don't envy your job right now. I think it's going to be difficult. I think everything that you do as you're moving forward, because Phoenix is really starting to do well, especially in the center core, you're going to have this debate on every project. The one thing that I would encourage you to do is find ways to make things work for them, because we don't want to turn people away right now. This economy could literally change. Once it changes, we've lost, the ability to be able to grow in this economy and get the amount of jobs. That economic lag that occurs because we slow things down, it's just something to think about. As the economy moves like this, if we're only able to keep up to this level here, you've got a gap in there. That gap is an economic lag in the economy. So when the things do change, that would be that many fewer people that have jobs to be able to sustain a harder time. So everything that we do is geared toward that, and it's just more of a, I really want to thank you for everything you did on this. I think it's very difficult, and it's a hard way to balance it, but you've done a really good job. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. Vice Mayor, any questions?
No questions. I appreciate the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you. This item is for information and discussion, so we don't have a vote required. So thank you for the update. Very timely as we're getting recognition for this project. And I should have noted earlier, but we did have one card in favor of item 8, which was on the consent agenda, Historic Preservation Demonstration Project Bond Funds. And Jim McPherson also in favor of that item, so which did pass unanimously. So if we could note those, that would be great. Wonderful. Now we move to item 10, affordable housing. Welcoming our housing director.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Safe, sanitary, and decent housing. Sounds very basic. As a Phoenix Public Housing Authority, it's our job to provide safe, sanitary, and decent housing, public and affordable housing to low-income residents in the city. Currently, a family of 4 making 50% of median income brings home about $32,000 a year. A recent HUD study showed that 67,000 families making $32,000 a year and lower are currently in need of affordable housing. On top of that, we have our special needs population of homeless, veterans, disabled, seniors, and others, making it very, very difficult to find enough safe, sanitary, and decent housing for all of those people. Those of you that follow the market will understand and know that the rental housing market is very strong right now. Rents are going up every year. The current rate for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment across the city is about $900 a month average rate. But in the high demand areas of the central city and along the light rail and in the transportation corridors, those rents are going up to $2,000 or $2,400 a month for a 2-bedroom, and up to $1,000 a month for just a not a 1-bedroom, I can't remember, I just lost it, a studio, thank you. So $1,000 a month for a studio. I just got yesterday an invitation to the grand opening of the containers on Grand, and those containers are about 500 or 600 square feet, and they're going for $1,000 a month, and they have a waiting list. So again, the market's very strong. In this market, our low-income residents are having a very, very difficult time finding safe, sanitary, and decent housing that they can afford. Obviously, the housing department does not have a big fund to go out and develop our own affordable housing in the city, but what we do is leverage the funding that we have. So we take our home and community development block grant allocations and loan that money in a partnership with public and nonprofit or private and nonprofit development organizations to give them the loans to allow them to compete for low-income housing tax credits at the state. So that's how they finance affordable development. So we partner with them, we loan this money out. Some of the recent projects that we've had success with these loans include Victory Place, which is a 200 units of permanent supportive housing for homeless and disabled military veterans. should be finished on the final phase in November. Another recent project funded with home and CDBG funds is 56-unit Grand Families Place, which is a rental community for grandparents who have legal custody of and are raising their grandchildren. And the last example is Madison Gardens, which is a 133-unit affordable rental community on 8th Street and Missouri. Madison Gardens serves seniors at 60% or lower, of 60% of median income or lower. It looks and feels both inside and outside like a market rate community. It's a very nice community. The same developer, Westcap, recently got awarded LIHTC and or low-income housing tax credits and CDBG and home funds from the city to build Northern Gardens at 12th Street and 21st Avenue Northern, right on the light rail. So those seniors will have a light rail capability. So this year we have $6.5 million available in total funding for these loans. This level of funding we anticipate will fund approximately 4 or 5 projects. $4 million of this funding is home funds, and the other $2.5 million is community development block grant or CDBG funds. HUD requires a certain percentage of our home funds to be given directly to nonprofit community housing development organizations. So $1.2 million of these funds this year is earmarked for nonprofit community development housing organizations. Those organizations are organizations like Native American Connections, who are in the audience today, Catholic Charities, UMOM, organizations like that. Community priorities. Funding is awarded based on community priorities that were approved by council back in 2013. These priorities are designed to be narrowly focused, targeting supportive housing projects that cater to the most vulnerable and frail populations like homeless and other special needs. The Housing Department recommends continuing with these priorities with the addition of a priority for projects that are submitted by nonprofit community housing development organizations so we can meet our HUD requirements. Other ongoing priorities include the rehabilitation of existing affordable properties that are owned by nonprofit developers and include current or previous funding by the city. So obviously the city has an interest in maintaining our investment in these properties and in the residents in these properties. And last, it is always a priority for us to assist with down payment and closing costs for low and moderate income families to get them into permanent housing. As far as timing, the call for interest will be released in early November, and the applications will be due in early January 2016. We have a department-appointed selection committee that we put together every year with partners in other city departments like Community Economic Development and Neighborhood Services. We also include in that selection committee community partners who are not currently participating or competing for our funding, so they are objective. We review based on the community priorities, and we also review the applications for developer experience, project merits, and then also financial feasibility. We will bring the recommended awards back to the Neighborhood Housing and Development Subcommittee in February for approval. Also, the timing and funding of these priorities were discussed with about 60 of our community development partners at an affordable housing community development meeting in August. And this timing was agreed upon because what it will do is give them the formal award to put into their low-income housing tax credit application in time to get it in. So that will assist them with points and getting that low-income housing tax credit award. So today we're asking the subcommittee to recommend City Council approval of the Affordable Housing Loan Program's community priorities and its call for interest process for the 2015-2016 home and CDBG competitive funding round. By continuing to support this program, you will be making a real difference in the lives of many of our residents who deserve safe, sanitary, and decent affordable housing.
Wonderful, thank you. Do not have any cards on this item. Councilmember questions?
Yeah, just a couple. One, I think the staff knows well, first I got to tell Cindy, you've done a fantastic job. I mean, at the City of Phoenix, she came from Development Services, and for people that don't know her, she was known as the person you go to when you've got a problem. She was able to fix things there and make things work for people. So congratulations. I think Ed made a really good choice of having you become the director here. It's a tough job where you just moved into. It's going to be something completely different, but nothing that you can't handle, that's for sure. I mean, you've done a fantastic job, and I'm going to miss you over there because you're easy to talk to over there and get things worked out for people. You're going to have you're always going to have this conflict too. I don't know how you end up getting there. As a city, you still want to see people that can afford the light rail be able to be the closest to it. But as developments come in, because they cost money, they're not cheap to come in, that raises your rent values. As you raise your rent values, you drive people out. And the people that need the services the most are the ones that get pushed back to the furthest part of the line. It's a market-driven model. I don't know how you get around that without forcing that, which I would never be a big fan of. But I don't know how you solve something like that, Cindy. I think that's going to be a debate that's going to occur. But as you have these main lines where people want to live, that's also the place that you're going to see the people that needing to get on the transit. I don't know how you solve that. I mean, do you have any ideas on how you're going to do that at all? Or is it kind of a big bite? I should ask that question later.
So, thank you, Councilman. So I have only been here since June in this department. I'm getting a feel for what's available, what properties we own, and maybe could possibly redevelop or go out for RFP that are in this area that would benefit the most low-income families and special needs populations. So I do have some ideas, but I'm not quite ready to bring those forward. I will be very soon.
Oh, just giving you a thought here. I don't know how you're going to solve that. I mean, if you look at those individuals, primarily they work at the stores, they work at the restaurants, they work at the hotels. They also need access to be able to get the same level of access. I don't know how that gets solved. The other deals with, and you've heard me say this before, as much as possible, I really believe that these types of projects, I know this is just getting it forward, moving it forward along. I'll wait and see what the final plan looks like. So I'm giving you the caveat. But as much as possible needs to be moved over to the nonprofits to be able to do the projects, not only just on the developer fee types, but also on the support services, the administrative part of it. That area there, in particular, those represent, I mean, if you look at some of these projects, just from what we got from staff, around 34% or more is monies that get eaten up out of a project, which I consider to be problematic. But so those projects need to be moved up as much as possible in the private sector into the hands of nonprofits, or even maybe some of them are for-profits. I mean, especially if you're doing the development end of it. But the more units you can expand out by doing it more efficiently, the more people you're going to serve. The more people you serve, the less likelihood you're going to have people that need housing that don't have it. So, I'm going to encourage you to do that as much as possible, move as much of this into the hands of those nonprofits in particular that do this type of work. They're the ones that are mission driven. They're driven literally to solve a specific problem, whether it's the homeless problem or individuals with domestic violence shelters or whatever shelter Native American Connections is here. They're mission driven, and they're the ones that would be better equipped to handle this. We can't solve everything here, but we have individuals in our community that literally are driven to fix those types of things. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Vice Mayor, any questions or comments?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. And I am glad that we are working to protect the city's investment. When the city's a partner, people expect certain quality, and so it's important that we deliver that and are involved with projects that reflect our values as a city. I also hope that we will find ways to have affordable housing throughout the city. Certainly it is important along light rail, but people need good housing throughout our city, and we also want to make sure that we can support our school system and help with diverse school districts as well. So we want to benefit as many people as possible throughout our community. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Motion.
Do we have a second, Vice Mayor?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We now move to call to the public, and I do not have any cards. So with that, our meeting is not as efficient as some of the vice mayors, but pretty efficient. So thank you all for joining us for our September meeting. We are adjourned.